Wed. This little place is large with life. Your grace has made the morning light. The curve of joy is at your hip, awaiting night wherein I slip to soothe all sorrows and to sip the fragrant nectar of your lips. I dream the dream you make each day, and when I rise, your brimming overflows my eyes. Heart of Darkness. In my late 30s, I did very well. A rising market lifted me to winnings made to move us to a place we thought more like us. No more those little houses, all but rubbing windows, parked cars on the street. I bought 7 acres on a mountaintop, a gentleman's retreat. A neighborhood so bad, everyone had money. We were soon discovered. Charlotte dropped by in Lily Pulitzer with cookies, somewhat past the best of it, yet offering what treats might yet be had. The cultured voice that marked her as belonging to a class at depth had huntress in it. She stood too close. Charlotte favored causes, rescued animals, lunched, did needlepoint, spoke of art at auction, foreign places. Ned, her husband, traded currency on Wall Street. Slight, intense, mostly he seemed poised to speak at length, until with great reserve it came out, well, how about a drink, or something about baseball. Summer passed as couples more than nature might have made of us. They worked at making us familiar. We had a pool. They were members of a private lake. We swam, canoed. Ned cooked burgers on the dirtiest grill I'd ever seen, until next time. We did movies, ice cream, a parade in town, sometimes met by accident, or so it seemed. Walked on together, talking, rather more with Ned attending closely to my Anne, while I hung on every word from Charlotte. She knew everything. Thus we had been prepared when in the fall she arranged for us to meet some closest friends. Perhaps by then I knew too much. At dinner, candles flickering at table cast everyone grotesques of self-regard. The talk all innuendo of who did what with whom and when. There were party favors, mine in a jar, top twisted out popped a little plastic penis. Eyes downcast, Anne managed to defer both toys and conversation. She later threw away the purple diaphragm. Rumored to be carrying the child of the realtor seated next to me, the wife of the headmaster of a private school was aglow in pregnancy, her husband completely lost in the woman on his left, blouse so loose at times a breast became undressed. Her brute companion gorged as at a trowel. Charlotte held her eyes on me. Ned fixed his gaze on Anne. After dinner, others pairing off, we did our thank yous and goodbyes from faces that could not disguise we'd broken from them. Walking home, Anne and I said nothing. And I thought, more marriages are saved by what's not said than all the love remaining in them. And of their festive coupling, to my everlasting shame, I briefly savored would we. As with so much in life, it took years for me to see a deeper truth than to merely find them liberated. They had found a way to be. I'm still searching. Made for each other. No one will ever love you like your money, the way it clings, so reluctant to leave, the sorrow it evokes when it passes on to others, How often you think of it there with them, making them happy, yet irrepressible in its longing. What it goes through to reassure it is only about you, awaiting your touch in your wallet or purse, and when you awaken, clumped together in servitude, in change and crumpled bills on your bureau, even sending statements through the mail. And the reverie, how bright it was when first you met, that single shining coin, how reaffirming when held close. How often have you almost lost it entirely, only to have it return, made small, yet pleading for your attention. How it struggled through your efforts to find you, saying, "Here I am, with you again at last." It could always be like this. The 6 admonitions. Once you fall through the scenery, life is never the same. Only the fish that leaps knows the water. Home is a heartbreak to build on. There is no room in a poem for a love affair with yourself. You will have to get another room. Outside of love, there is only motive. Under the law of relationship, the flaw is essential to the fit. Compare. A limousine on the Lower East Side, then something to see. Joe stepping out of Vegas onto the sidewalk of the Boys Club auditorium. Cesare, his lifetime friend, close beside. Now all but vanished into luster of stardom, polish, posture, authority, and the flame of one who had found in himself something to give. All the clues to who he had been, nourished in memory, so in his presence there was adjustment to scale, to remembrance as evolution. He had become radiant. There were many waiting who loved him, and as he turned to acknowledge Cesare whispering in his ear, you could see their lights come on. Fidelity undimmed to what might have been, or, hope of hopes, what might yet be. Cesare guiding him by the elbow, they entered to applause, cheers, whistles. Every dream he represented had come home to Alphabet City. In Vegas, his performances were complex. No small thing to be keynote of extravaganza, showgirls cascading as from heaven, while in his clear, sweet baritone, he offered the romantic medley that held it all together as they descended, plumed, furred, bejeweled, the glittering staircases, while he stepped and stopped, linked arms and danced, turned to one or another in tempo, and moved to just the right places. Easy in his tuxedo, he had been doing this for over 20 years. The problem became evident in rehearsal. He began to miss his marks. Voice was there, style, composure, until it all came apart. Inside, Cesare softly telling him names, Joe smiling, nodding, sometimes a gleam, perhaps of recognition. Settling in, they sat off to one side for the tributes. In his time, a strong director there had given Joe leads in Kismet, Gigi, Guys and Dolls. He spoke of how carefully Joe had prepared, searching in himself for those rich head tones. How he knew he was grooming a star. There were former cast members, tears streaming. I love you. God bless you. Many spoke. Everyone knew. Within a year, he was gone. In his condition, earlier the onset, more rapid the decline. No one to tell of his end, no one of us wanting to know. My farewell to Joe, so much preferred, was of a friend's performance, another Joe, at end of evening, in dance and song. E compari si vu sonare, ci si sona. Hey buddy, let's make some music. She, a poem best read in the dark, every spoken word too beautiful to be remembered. On my condition. When after my examination the doctor prepared to consult, I noticed his shoes were very fine. I would attempt description, but as Mallarmé might have noted, there are the shoes as I saw them, recalled to write about from memory, associations made with all the shoes gathered in my head, finally what you read. So much better what the master offered about the blossom he had held, which in like process then became, lovely as it was, impossible to see. What more to say than missing from every bouquet? And thus you came to mind, my missing flower, and what the doctor said of my condition simply didn't matter. A piece of blue sky. I've gone beyond the having, there is only the caring now. In a life preoccupied, more or less indifferent, easily amused, confused, mistaken, so much casually gained or lost, I live consumed of the everyday, and I miss too much of you. Now beyond recovery, all beyond repair. A few days after, in the darkness of myself, I turned to the work of the day, doing dishes, sweeping. I put your shoes in your closet, carried some things outside, turned, looked up, and for the longest time, unable to turn away from what I saw, perhaps all it ever was, a piece of blue sky. Proof. I had told you she was wonderful. No one like her ever was. And you said I'd like to see that, not just a pretty face, proof of what you're saying. At home, her photographs are everywhere, yet private, as since she's gone, I'm no longer taking prisoners. These photos, documents of context, moments where we'd pause to catch the light, everybody happy all the time, little proof we'd shared a life, resonant of claim and failure, elusive to ourselves, each other, archives to the gloss of consolation. I take nothing in head-on, only at surfaces oblique, where I glance safe distance, in absentia of self. Always she is smiling, laughing, from some place of compromise. Now I'm called to offer up an artifice. I've turned one over, her image in my hands, seen she is not mine nor ever was. Were you and I to join, we would have to find a way to live with living proof of what I say. Embraced. As a child, she takes you up into her arms and holds you, and you know yourself worth keeping. My mother, broken by the one she lost to another woman, gave all she had and found it led to pain. From early on, she worked as if life needed all of her just to be maintained. I don't recall enthusiasm. Somehow this started me outside of everything. Still, it's possible to seem fulfilling one's humanity. I played and struggled, failed to study, failed and failed and failed, then found my footing, succeeded on contemporary terms. In process, sold so much of self. In time, I knew myself unworthy. Some of us live entire lives of relative good nature and intermittent joy, have children and remain to carry what we've claimed, have all kinds of times without anyone who hurries up to hold us. It's not something I ever knew how to give or look for. Now I see my history as frictive sum of happenstance and error, rubbed together in my making produce a kind of light. Today a grandchild dropped by on her way to college, rushed in, embraced me, holding me so tight that I had value. Lifetimes, where the pines rising reach for themselves in the high, fine air, the mountains beyond, in the daylight, take last warmth onto their sacred faces, the river winding their shadows in song for every season, the least sapling, having lived evergreen, sheltered in deepest snow, emerges with new stature among its fellows. Ragged grasses shelter mouse and snake, fox and deer, myriad hidden species, rich in buzz and stealth and flutter. A hawk hovers, lord of his seeking. In twilight I turn away onto the path leading a long way down to what I've chosen. Bright morning. Like a child before a shop window, I am stunned by the prospect of happiness.